Said the president, he's got his war. Folks don't know just what's more. No one gives rhyme or reason. You've had one doubt, they call it treason. Said we're chicken feathers, all without one gut.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zach. This is baller, and I feel it hard. I'm about to preach. About to preach to you right now, alright? This is my first live show review. Haven't been to some in a while. Just retarded on its own, right? I want to talk about this. Had an amazing experience last night. Live music-wise and spiritually as well. I will preface this by saying that the guy I'm going to talk about, I want you to understand the context of it, that he is a guy in Christian contemporary music, but I mean, I don't want to discredit and say, oh, he's so much more, like that's a bad thing, but I want you guys to know that anyone who would totally write off someone who is some Christian music, I'm sure you guys will watch it anyway because, you know, you trust me, but please continue watching because I'm telling you right now, this is some great stuff right here, right? The musicianship is incredible. So I went to a show. Mary got 2 free tickets actually, like the day before, from someone that she works with, who had a couple extra spare tickets. Like, oh yeah, I heard you talking about John Mark McMillan. You know, you and your boyfriend want to go. So we went to a show. It's John Mark McMillan, A Mighty Ruckus Evening with John Mark McMillan and Friends, with special guests, Songs of Water, also appearing Jude Moses at McMillan Theater. McMillan Theater is inside of the Spirits Square, which is a performing arts sort of center and building inside of Charlotte, in Uptown area. They also have another place called the Duke Energy Center. They have a film museum of sort there called, I think, the Light Museum. This is sort of like, now I guess this whole thing is part of Blumenthal Performing Arts, so this is their booklet. Had a really nice write-up on here instead. Let me read for you. This is a really nice write-up on John Mark McMillan, talking about him and his newest record, which is called Economy. Raise your voice, chase away the ghosts. So begins the title track from John Mark McMillan's new release, Economy. A natural progression and a departure, McMillan's latest album has moved away from themes of death and resurrection that clothed the medicine, that's his last album, to the interior psychology of a man trying to live in an uneasy valley between this world and the next. That should really inspire anyone. That's pretty good stuff, right? To the interior psychology of a man trying to live in the uneasy valley between this world and the next, standing on the edge of the ocean of eternity, straining to see beyond the horizon line. For me, the greatest days, the birth of a child, the success of a career, have always been coupled with the worst ones. The death of a loved one, a friend's divorce, McMillan explains, it's a tension we all live in. On Economy, that tension is electric. From the first drum beat of album opener Sheet of Night to the post-rock song that closes out Seen a Darkness, there is a palpable weight that permeates the entire project. This is really the great line here that me and Mary love. This guy wrote this right. You guys should all be turned on by this one. This is gospel music run through the filter of the southern night. This is electrified folk. The music of a man who cut his teeth on Dylan and Kerouac and Springsteen, all the while haunted by the presence of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. Economy is the sound of glory and shame, murder and grace, darkness and daylight, and all those spaces in between. And it shows up in the songs, in the delicate beauty of Love You Swore, in the rady drawl of daylight, and the quiet solemnity of Murdered Son. For those following McMillan's steady rise as an artist, Economy will not disappoint. Having grown as a lyricist and musician, this body of work finds the North Carolina-based artist at his most mature, and sonically the album is far greater than the sum of its parts. Served by the production team of so-and-so and performed by the musicians that have supported McMillan across the world. The team has created a perfect accompaniment to McMillan's searching, searing vision of a world that is not as it should be. That's all I need to read right there. I could talk about the opening artists, and they're worth mentioning for sure, but I really don't want to waste too much time on this, and I feel like because of what it's about, just that it's not like a genre that people delve into. I don't want to make it too long for you guys so that, you know, you lose interest. It's very, I really strongly believe everyone should check this out. Now here's the thing, this past summer when I first came to know Jesus Christ, I got the John Mark McMillan record, his earliest one. Now the one thing that people talk about right away with John Mark is that John Mark has a song called How He Loves. And How He Loves was, I think, written back in either like maybe-ish 01, 02. Now, I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure it's around that time. Now with How He Loves, there was a good friend of his. And this friend, his last name was Coffee. And this friend was a youth pastor at the same church that he went to, which I'm pretty sure was Morning Star. It's a very famous, very well-known church here in Charlotte. Really great worship, great musicians, known for a lot of talent there. And that friend of his that day made a comment saying, at one point in front of everyone, that I would give my life today in order to shake the youth of the nation. Now, what's crazy about that is that he said that, right? He said in public. Later on that day, later on that night, him and a couple other people were in a really bad car accident, and I don't know what happened with the other people, I'm pretty sure it was him. He got into critical care, and he didn't make it, he died. Then, meanwhile, John Mark was in Florida doing recording when he got the call about it. Obviously, you know, it just ripped him apart. And the song How He Loves was the end result. He went straight to it, and he wrote How He Loves right after it. The story and the greatness of the song How He Loves, that everyone, first of all, it's just an amazing song. It's so easy. Honestly, it's a song that just never gets old. Never gets old. Not in worship, not when you're hearing it in church, not when you're driving in the car. It's just a touching song. There's a video on YouTube, actually. Maybe I'll put some links down below. There's a video to the story behind it, like a little documentary done on the song itself, and with him talking about it. And it just deals with the idea of how we have a God who can love us even at our worst and our ugliest. You know, the idea of you know, us being so angry at him, but the fact that he still loves us the way he does. So, it's called How He Loves. But it's sort of hard to explain how important that song is as a Christian unless you understand. But I would recommend everyone check it out. It's a touching song for any human, honestly, just for a human soul. Now, so John Mark performed last night, and it was just an incredible experience, man. Like, it just blew me away. You know, from an outside perspective, also one thing was great from a musical perspective. First off, from the musical's perspectives, one thing he did that's great is he comes out. They had a screen brought down for the back of him with some images. It was 3 other guys, I think, and him, and then later on they had a couple other guys that joined them. But when it was them, they were just so freaking loud, dude. It was so full. It was so powerful. This is like my first real experience of going to a worship concert. But the thing is, man, I kept thinking about people in the VC, because lots of you guys that I know would really, if they saw this show, it wouldn't matter if you're a Christian or not. Like, this stuff is powerful. You know how U2 has a lot of Christian themes on their albums, and you know, like the Joshua Tree is like, I think, number 1 or 2, and like the CCM's like top rated, within the top 100 Christian albums of all time, which is, I think, number 1 is actually your boy, Larry Norman had his name, right? The one that Zach showed the review of. I mean, he's like #1. Joshua Tree's up there, you know, but people love U2 even if they're not Christians because it's U2 and they have that sound. And you know how the way that Where the Streets Have No Name is, how it builds, and that powerful music and the positivity that comes out of it, and it just seeps out of the song, and it builds and it builds and it builds. I'd imagine you've seen videos, or if you've seen U2 live, you would know how it's like hearing the song Where the Streets Have No Name live, you know, or some of the other ones I can't think of with names. These guys are just like that. Just like it. Like, these guys are just so freaking powerful live. So they're going in after song after song after song, and then all of a sudden first of all, like, John Mark's pulling out different guitarists for every single song, and they're all great looking guitars. I just don't know many details about the different types and everything, you know, but from a musician's perspective, people will be very interested to see that. Then he switched it up and he sat down and he went to some acoustic numbers and brought out these two guys from another great act that performed called the Jude Moses, and one of the guys is actually his brother-in-law. And they were amazing. Like, after this other great band that came on first that performed with tons and tons and tons of instruments on stage, Jude Moses came out. It was two guys, one with a keyboard standing and one with a guitar sitting, and they just played only 4 songs and they just ripped it. So these guys are great on the stage. That's probably like who the And Friends was with John Mark McMillan. But I'm telling you, man, like, last night I was hit, man. I was touched. Like, I honestly, I mean, I'm going through stuff in my life right now. I'm really trying to discover my identity, like who I am, where I'm going. You know, I'm at this point at 25 and working, you know. I know I always talk about the work and it sounds stupid. It's just what's on my mind all the time now these days, you know. Working, how I'm making money, how I'm getting by, and I should always be more thankful. But at the same time, it's not like doable for you know, making a family down the road. And so I just have a lot of things in my mind, and you know, this sort of stirred up more emotions in there for me. I'm not even joking. After when I saw Jude Moses perform and then John Mark coming on and just like freaking killing it, I really was like thinking to myself, like, I need to go find my acoustic guitar. You know, like, I have acoustic guitar from years and years ago, and I never really got into it. I only had it back in high school when I was playing, and I didn't keep up with it. And I think I gave it to my little brother to hold on to because I went to college and whatnot. And like, it might be in his garage, in his closet. There's probably a string broken on it, but you know, it's a guitar. It's a guitar. No matter what kind it is, you can learn on it. You know, so I really want to see if I can get a hold of that and tune it up and have it stringed up correctly and even learn how to tune properly. Get a tuner, you know, digital tuner. But I remember when I was in my band in high school and I was a lead singer and I was doing lyrics and stuff. It was just about like lyrics that sounded cool and trying to come up with these emo type of ideas and just sound. But even to this day, when I started doing some rhymes, writing that down in college, and even like with any poetry I did, I always felt like I'm not really great with my words and writing, and I feel like I didn't have anything necessarily to say and how to say it and make it sound great. Right now, I realized last night that I think I'm at a point in my life where I could. It might be stem out, but from a lot of different directions. But I think it would start with the idea of just like these questions I have in terms of what it means to be a Christian in today's world, and what am I doing right? Am I doing things wrong? What I'm feeling convicted about? Where I'm going to go and as a man, wild at heart, baby. Yeah, I mean, so I was really blown away. I'm not really sure. I feel like I'm just gonna discredit this show, because I'm just talking like anyone else would. I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job at it, but it always seems better to other people. Like maybe Derek. I don't know if Derek thought his Radiohead review was great, but I enjoyed every minute of hearing him talk about it. But hopefully if you guys know me, you can get something out of it. But, man, I really highly recommend John Mark McMillan. Oh, here's another interesting note, is that John Mark, his song, there's all these songs are great, and there's a lot of big ones for him now, but just because of talking about that song, How He Loves, that's the one you want to go to right away first to hear what he's all about. when I first met him back in the summer, since he's part of a younger adult church that's newer and that actually does their things on Sunday nights at a music venue called the Visualite Theater that I love in Charlotte. I went up to him, introduced myself to him, told him I was listening to the album and whatnot, and he seemed on the quiet side, like he wasn't as much into, he wasn't as socially going as I am, which probably doesn't really say much since I'm probably the one that's too overly social. But so I was just, I don't know, I always had this little, I felt dumb about it, but I literally felt like I had this bitter feeling about it, like why didn't he spend time and get to know me a little bit better, and it was all because I was like getting to know the idea of what a Christian is, and I'm feeling out the territory and the waters around me with attitudes, and everyone's always hugging and loving and so open, which I love, and then I had this interaction with him that seemed a little bit off for me. But I got to know him better and figured out that I just think maybe you just have to get to know him more. Because he comes to my Starbucks, not when he's not on tour, obviously, with his son, and I sort of made that connection and helping him remember, like, oh yeah, like I'll mention, like, oh yeah, you know, one of your other buddies who I don't need to name, who I know his name, was like, oh yeah, he played at our service the other week, you know, and it was great in worship, you know, or I'll be like, oh, you know, this and that, you know, just giving things so he knows, like, he can remember, because I'm sure he has tons of people that talk to him all the time. So, and it's funny, because I was like 4th row, and it was a seating theater, but we did stand for most of John Mark, except when it was acoustic. But it was funny because at one point I always, you know, like when you're in very front and you feel like they're looking, even though they're probably just looking and dazing out, but they're playing music, but you feel the artist is like looking straight at you. I had like one of those funny moments throughout like the entire show, and I was just like, man, if I was him, I'd be like, oh man, look at that guy. That's like guy makes my cappuccino. I know him. Great. He's worshiping. He's loving the Lord. You know, it was funny. Man, but you know, after seeing him in different environments, you know, and I see him perform like this, it's just like, this is what he was meant to do. You know, like he's killing it. He's running around on the stage. He's excited. He's having fun. He's singing his heart out. He's watching other people sing their hearts out. I mean, I would be touched. I can't imagine being someone who has their relationship with the Lord and then looking out at a full crowd of people just in awe and worshiping the Lord with him. It's something special. It makes me want to take up my guitar. So maybe we'll do that. But I would really highly recommend you guys check it out. First record, Strung a Blank from me, but it's good. It's where How He Loves was first released. Has a tree on it. Really cool painting. Second album is called The Medicine, which I'm trying to get the most into now. Newest one's called Economy. And the other thing is, I realized, like, I realized last night, every single act before him, I was just like, oh my god, I'm getting so excited, I'm so excited. I just knew that it was going to be freaking amazing. And I was kept realizing, like, man, why haven't I been up on listening to him? Like, maybe it's the records in my life now, or everything else I was listening to, but I didn't keep up with him. And now I'm just like, man, I need to get back on this. And then I realized that, like, I know 2 of his songs are ones I absolutely love, and when they play them in my church, I get super pumped. But then I realized all these other ones, I'm like, I've heard this. They must have been played around me, you know? So I'm going to start delving into it. But John Mark McMillan is an amazing musician on the Christian spectrum side of things, and just the rocking live show. Like, I think of, I particularly was thinking of you, Gil, just because I think you like, or at least like I see you talk more as opposed to some more of the abstract stuff. I see you talk about people like Van Halen, and you know, you love your Genesis and love Phil Collins, and I think of Phil Collins, and when I think of a show like that, I think to myself, he likes a show where the band just rocks out and they're powerful and they're loud and full, and if they're great, then he's great. And I kept thinking about you, man. I'd really highly recommend you check out John Mark McMillan. Look up live stuff on YouTube. Look up How He Loves. I'm gonna post. I'm gonna see if I can find the video and post it down below for the video that goes into the experience. That you'll get touched by that one. Find that video that goes into him talking about it. That's what I want to do. So I'm gonna find that link. I'm gonna post it down below for you guys. But thanks for listening to me talk, guys. My first slideshow review. It is what it is. Most of them probably just me telling you I love them. Hopefully that works. One love. You'll probably see another video from me tonight. I have some stuff I want to talk and show. Might be Andy's thread. one big holiday, but then it might just be some other stuff too. Gotta get around to stuff. Alright. Love you.